Let's talk about a form of narcissism that often flies under the radar: covert narcissism. You're probably familiar with the typical narcissists, the ones with a grandiose sense of self, lots of charm and charisma, and who are really in your face. Covert narcissists have the same traits as their textbook narcissist friends, but when you're in their presence, their type of narcissism feels a little different. Covert narcissists are trickier to spot, but their impact can be just as damaging. So let's get into the 6 signs of covert narcissism you need to watch out for. Before we get started, hit the like button if you've dealt with a narcissistic individual. Sign number 1, extreme sensitivity to criticism. All right, so first up, covert narcissists are incredibly sensitive to criticism. Have you ever felt like you were constantly walking on eggshells around someone or trying to say things in the nicest way possible because you didn't want to make them upset? That's what dealing with a covert narcissist can feel like at times. Can you think of anyone who loves criticism? Probably not, right? I guess you could say covert narcissists can't stand the slightest hint of negative feedback because everything feels like a personal attack to them. But they might not lash out openly like an overt narcissist would. Instead, they'll hold a grudge in secret. They have the tendency to react in passive-aggressive ways. Instead of coming to you directly, they might give you the silent treatment or make subtle digs at you later. This overly sensitive nature often makes them seem like they're constantly on edge, which can make interactions with them pretty exhausting. Covert narcissists are known to avoid situations where they could be judged or compared to others. It's not surprising because they hate criticism. This is because of their extremely fragile egos. They can't bear even the thought of being in the same room as someone better than them. So they steer clear of competitions or situations where they think they might be judged on their skills or personality. Instead of taking feedback as a chance to grow or improve, they see criticism as a direct attack on their self-worth. Sign number 2, false modesty. So let's talk about humility, or rather, fake humility. Covert narcissists are masters of pretending to be humble. They'll downplay their accomplishments and might even talk about their flaws, but it's all a facade. What they're really looking for is basically reassurance and validation from everybody around them. They'll say things like, "Oh, I'm not that good at my job," hoping you'll respond with, "Are you kidding? You're amazing." It's a sneaky way to fish for compliments without coming off as arrogant. Don't fall for this trap of false modesty. It's just another way for them to get the admiration they crave. It's like this. Imagine giving someone a really bad gift but wrapping it up with a gorgeous wrapping paper and a fancy bow. From the outside, it looks like an amazing present. Some people might even think it's something valuable. But when they open it, they find out that it's actually pretty terrible. That's basically what false modesty is like. It's confusing because it's wrapped in a veneer of sincerity. Let me give you another example. Covert narcissists might volunteer to take on extra work or help out, but there's usually an ulterior motive behind that. They want to be seen as the humble hero, the one who's always willing to lend a hand. But if their efforts aren't recognized or praised, their helpfulness quickly evaporates. This is because their actions are rarely motivated by genuine kindness or selflessness that comes from within. It's all about maintaining an image and receiving validation. Do you want to learn more about narcissism in general? Make sure to check out our video on the 9 traits of a narcissist, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Sign number 3, passive-aggressive behavior. Now this one is a biggie. Covert narcissists often express their feelings and frustrations through passive-aggressive behavior. Instead of addressing issues head-on, they'll resort to backhanded comments, sarcasm, or even subtle sabotage. For example, if they're upset with you, they might forget to pass on important information or intentionally show up late to a meeting. These are the types of subtle passive-aggressive tactics they use. They rarely confront issues directly, which can make it hard to pinpoint what's really going on. This passive aggressiveness can create a lot of tension and confusion in relationships. Imagine working with someone who always seems to have an excuse for why they didn't do their part, or who constantly makes underhanded comments about your work. It's draining, and it creates a toxic environment. Covert narcissists use the passive-aggressive behavior to maintain control and keep others off balance. They never openly express their dissatisfaction, which makes it really difficult to address the issues head-on. This can also leave you feeling frustrated and unsure of how to handle the situation, which is exactly what they want. Sign number 4, victim mentality. Covert narcissists love to play the victim. They think the world is against them and that they're constantly being wronged or mistreated. It's really easy for someone with a victim mentality to not take responsibility for their actions and instead shift all the blame to others or the world in general. The victim mentality can manifest in various ways. They might always talk about their past relationships in a way that make them seem like the perpetual victim, or they might constantly complain about their current circumstances without ever taking any steps to change them. You know, the "oh, poor me" mentality. They'll tell sob stories about how they've been wronged in the past, hoping that someone will sympathize with them and support them. It's a great way to get people's attention and manipulate them into feeling guilty and responsible. It's also a great way for them to control the narrative and maintain their sense of superiority. Covert narcissists thrive on the pity and sympathy of the people around them, which allows them to manipulate people into doing what they want. By acting like they're the victim, they dodge any criticism and avoid taking responsibility for their part in everything. Sign number 5, envy and resentment. Covert narcissists are also often envious and resentful. They have a hard time celebrating other people's successes, and they might even feel personally slighted when someone else achieves something great. They might make snide remarks about others' accomplishments or downplay their significance. This envy isn't always obvious, but it is there, right beneath the surface. They're constantly comparing themselves to others and feeling like they come up short, which fuels this resentment and bitterness. For example, you might have a colleague who always finds a way to minimize your achievements or do subtle things to undermine you in front of others. Covert narcissists might also spread rumors or gossip to tarnish the reputation of the people they envy. Sign number 6, withdrawal and isolation. This one is a bit confusing, right? Overt narcissists are more grandiose, attention-seeking, and assertive. They thrive on admiration, so withdrawing and isolating is the last thing you expect them to do. But covert narcissists tend to be more sensitive, introverted, and less outwardly grandiose. So when they don't get the attention or validation they crave, they tend to pull back and isolate themselves. It's like they retreat into their own world, almost as if they're punishing you for not giving them what they want. They might stop answering texts, avoid parties, or just seem distant and withdrawn. It's a way of sulking or pouting, hoping that by withdrawing into their shell, people around them will notice and come running, asking what's wrong, or give them all the attention they so badly crave. It's also important to remember that this doesn't just happen. It's all very strategic. When they stop answering calls, responding to texts, and sort of disappear, they're hoping that it'll create a sense of mystery and it'll make their friends and family worry. People might start wondering, did I do something wrong? Or why are they suddenly so quiet? It's only natural to wonder what suddenly happened to your friend or family member that you saw all the time or communicated with all the time. So naturally, you'll reach out. But this gives the covert narcissist the validation they were missing. It's a form of emotional manipulation. By playing hard to get, they end up drawing people closer. When they eventually come around or end their self-inflicted isolation, They do it by blaming you for why they did it in the first place. So they might say things like, I just felt like no one really cared about me, or I didn't feel appreciated, so I needed some space. Being in any sort of relationship with a narcissist, whether overt or covert, can be extremely challenging. Their behaviors can be emotionally draining and difficult to navigate. It often leaves you feeling confused, manipulated, or even questioning your own reality. Recognizing the signs and understanding the difference between overt and covert narcissism is crucial for protecting your own mental and emotional well-being. Setting boundaries, seeking support, and prioritizing self-care are essential steps in maintaining your sanity and well-being in such relationships. As always, don't forget to spread loving kindness to all beings around you and be the change you want to see in the world. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.